Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, good morning. I'm Endang Lestari and I'm the representative of Psychology study program. And here I would like to deliver my speech about social culture. And the title of my speech is No More Stigma to People with Mental Illness. Well, before I start my speech, I would like to tell you that a few weeks ago, my lecturer told me and my classmates about stigma. And at that time, there was a very long discussion about stigma. Even 2.5 hours wasn't enough to talk about it. Why? Why this happened? Because there are so many, even too many stigma that exist in this country. And one of it is stigma about people with mental illness. Ladies and gentlemen, now let me tell you about stigma. Stigma is a negative label or stereotypes of any social attributes that owned by someone because the effect of society, culture, or dogma. So in this stigma, there are prejudice, hostility, and even discrimination. Now, let me talk about mental illness. Mental illness is every mental disorder that can affect on how people think, feels, mood, and behavior. And if we talk about mental illness, I believe that a lot of people in Indonesia don't know that mental illness is among the number one causes of disability in our country. It cost 1.25 billion rupiah in 2018 with more than 3 million cases. And the shocking fact is that every 40 seconds, there is one person who commits suicide due to mental disorder. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to ask you a question. Have any of you never been prejudiced against others? No, right? Why? Because even for the most open-minded people, judgment is a natural part of our human condition. However, if judgment escalates to prejudice, hostility, or even discrimination, it becomes a breeding ground for stigma. And for those who stigmatize, they are facing barriers and obstacles to get the help that they need. Ladies and gentlemen, we can see the examples of stigma every single day. Read the news, scroll through social media, overheard conversation on the street or at school. We are bound to hear the examples of stigma. And mental illness is the most stigmatized illness compared to the other illnesses or conditions. Now, the question is why? Why stigma could appear and aim to the people with mental illness? I mean, like, why people with mental illness used to be described as stupid, crazy, or unmotivated, while people with the ability linked with other illness, such as cancer, used to be described as a strong, powerful, brave, or determined. Why? Well, the first reason why stigma could appear is because of misunderstanding. And as we know that people with mental illness used to be avoided by their community because they feel too afraid, or even some of them may feel ashamed to be friends with people with mental illness. And nowadays, mental illness used to be synonym with crazy, unmotivated, instability, or stupid. And this condition is further exacerbated with the media, with the entertainment industry, and by the video games, who are portraying mental illness as a villains. See how many movies, how many books, how many comics or cartoons which are describing mental illness as a murderer. Think about it. And the second reason why stigma could appear is because of false belief. As we know that people in Indonesia used to believe in supernatural power. And we can see by ourselves how many people will say someone is possessed by a demon whenever they act strangely. And this causes a phenomenon where people with mental illness used to be taken to the wrong place to get the treatment. Rather than going to get a medical check, they will be taken to some person who called shaman in Indonesia, right? And some people also believe that people with mental illness are those who are a weak faith in God. And this can cause people with mental illness to feel stunned, isolated, feeling their own stigma, and even feel ashamed with their own condition. And these problems could lead to an issue with employment opportunities, housing options, and relationships to the people with mental illness. Now, ladies and gentlemen, actually, there are few simple solutions to break the cycle of stigma. On a personal level, we can take a side on our own prejudice and our own stereotypes and simply show empathy to those who are dealing with mental illness. We can start to looking the people with mental illness as the same person as us. There's no difference between them and us. And if we, as a community, could start to talk about people with mental illness in a respectful way, we could start to break this cycle of stigma. Remember, mental illness is something that needs to be discussed and treated, not something to be whispered about, ashamed, and made fun of. That's all that I can say. I'm sorry if I made a mistake. Thank you for your attention. Stay safe and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.